Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Dvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Dvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Dvaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंसा परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम नित्यलीला प्रविष्ट ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंसा परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर श्री श्रीमान भक्ति सिद्धांत को प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री ललिदास ठाकुर की जय। श्री रूप शिशुनाथन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दस रघुनाथ सद्गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। प्रेम से गो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गो गोपीनाथ श्याम सुंदर गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवजीत मायपुर धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगामय जमुना माई की जय। श्रीमती तुलसी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय। सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय। हरि नाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय। जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की जय। जय गौर प्रेमानंद। All glorious assembly devotees, all glorious assembly devotees, glorious assembly devotees, glorious all glorious Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Namo Vishnu Atmanivedana Swami. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So this morning's reading is Canto 4, Chapter 29. Suppose we text 11, text 12, because we gave this class last time from text 11. So we have got text 11 on the board. But anyways, text 12. So text 12 doesn't have any purpose, so I'll just read the translation of text 12, then we'll go to text 13. So text 12, translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The city called Apana represents engagement of the tongue in the speech, and Bahudhana is the variety of foodstuffs. The right ear is called the gate of Pitru, and the left ear is called the gate of Devahu. Text 13. Pavitram cha nivritam cha sastram panchala samajinitam pitriyana devayanam srota charuta dharad vajate. Okay, so we'll just do word by word. Pravitam, the process of sense enjoyment. Cha, also. Nirvitam, the process of detachment. Cha, also. Sastram, scriptures. Panchala, Samajnitam is described as Pitriyan, going to Pitraloka. Devayan, going to Devaloka. Srota, by hearing. Shruta Dharata, by the companion named Shrutadhar. Rajate, one can be elevated. Translation purport by Prabhupada. Translation. Narada Muni continued, the city spoken of as Dakshina Panchala represents the scriptures meant for directing perversely the process of sense enjoyment in the fruitive activities. The other city named Uttara Panchala represents the scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. The living entity receives different kinds of knowledge by means of 2 ears, and some living entities are promoted to Pitraloka and some to Devaloka. All this is made possible by the 2 ears. Purport. The Vedas are known as Shruti, and the knowledge received from them through oral reception is called Shrutidhar. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, one can be promoted to the planets of the demigods or the planets of the Pitras, forefathers, or even to the Vaikuntha planets simply through the process of hearing. These things are already been explained in the previous chapters. Om Jnana Salakaya Chakshujumlitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Panchakalpat Rubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyecha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this chapter we're discussing about the city of 9 gates. So we have already heard about the eyes, the nostrils, the ears, the tongue. So all these facilities are there to help a living entity experience life in the material world. But at the same time, as this verse reveals to us, that Narada Muni is saying that there are 2 different paths which are laid down for a living entity. One is of sense enjoyment and using the material facilities to make believe that I'm happy and I'm enjoying this material world. The other one is Nivritti Marg, the one of detachment. So you are being detached from the material world. Now here in this verse is mentioned that the 2 gates, which are described as the 2 ear holes, the right one and the left one. So although in our experience we hear sound is kind of equal from both ears, but there is some transcendental connection from the right ear to the soul and left ear to the soul. So you may hear something which is not correct, goes to one ear. Something which is correct and beneficial goes to the other ear. So nonetheless, the process of hearing is very, very important, because as Prahlad Maharaj himself is promoting the different process of bhakti, the 9-fold process of bhakti, which we all are familiar with: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. And the next stage is Pada, Sevanam, Arsanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So the other 6 are not very easy for us to perform, because it requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of material facilities, material elements, and also you have to have depth of understanding. For example, Shravanam, we all have the ability to speak, hearing, so we can hear. Now we can choose what we want to hear. That which will free us from material contamination and become more detached, or that which will bring us more attachment to the material world and bring more entangled through this sound vibration to entice you that yes, come, this material world is a wonderful place, and enjoy. So Shravanam is there, and Kirtanam, the power of speech is there also. Now power of speech is described, can be used in 2 ways, in a positive way or a negative way. Positive way is one that you speak words which are pleasing to everyone. The negative one is you speak words which are very harsh and which brings pain to others. Now this is of course, when you speak something about someone which is in a bad taste, then it is not a very pleasant thing, because the person whom you are speaking bad about may either hear directly or may hear from someone else indirectly that, oh, that person is speaking like this about you. And that will not bring happiness or pleasant feeling in the heart. you'll feel distress and pain. That why someone is talking so derogative about me. If you talk something nice about the person, then the person feels nicer. I mean, this is pretty much the material nature. That there is good and bad. So good things make you feel comfortable and happy. Bad things make you uncomfortable and painful and suffering. Now, beyond the good and bad speaking, there is a third aspect of speaking, and that is that when you speak, the words which comes out of your mouth should be glorification of the Lord. Now, we all hear this all the time, that glorification of the Lord is the best way to connect with the Supreme Lord. And best glorification of the Lord, of course, is that unless until you know in very intimacy the transcendental nature of the Lord, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, then you can repeat this. But generally we are not very privy to this. Even if we hear the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, while we are hearing them, we can take pleasure in it. But after that, in from one ear and out from the other, and it's gone. You know, for example, this last 1 month, we were having a very deep meditation of Mother Yashoda and the love she had for her darling Krishna. And that reciprocation of loving exchange between Mother Yashoda and Damodar was so intense. And the whole prayers we sing, Damodarashtakam, was supposed to bring us to that deep meditation of how beautiful Krishna is and how he is reciprocating with his mother. His mother's devotion for Krishna is so deep that she wants to chastise her son first, because he got so many complaints from the other gopis that Krishna is stealing butter from our house, yogurt our house. And stealing we don't mind so much, but he makes us a mess and breaks the pots, which upsets us. So Mother Yashoda was, okay, I'll punish my child. But we know from the past time, when Mother Yashoda is running after Krishna, and Krishna cannot be caught by just material desire. So Mother Yashoda finally, stops, and the tears from her eyes are coming. What are these tears? These tears are not of frustration. These tears are of love for her child. Saying, why would I want to punish my child? My whole life is for him. My joy comes from him, and I want to punish him. So immediately that devotion comes oozing out from her heart, and in the form of tears. And when Krishna sees this, he says, okay, mother, now you can tie me. So then Krishna has been tied. But the point is that this is a very deep meditation between Krishna and his mother of loving exchange. Now the whole month we were finishing, and yesterday we concluded the final day of Kartik and Damodarashtakam prayers. Still, it is fresh in our minds, so for next 2-3 days we'll still remember about Damodarashtakam. But when you come to the altar, you don't see Mother Yashoda and Damodar in front anymore. So there's an old English saying, out of sight, out of mind. And very soon, you'll forget about these things, and you'll get on to something else. So hearing is very important, and then what you speak is very important. So of course, in this day and age, because we are not developing taste for Krishna and his transcendental pastimes, and we cannot talk about his pastimes 24/7, then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a different process, chanting the holy name of the Lord. So the holy name of the Lord is very simple. We chant every day. At least we make a vow to chant 16 rounds. So it takes about at least 2 hours, 2.5 hours of time for just chanting and hearing the holy name. And if you're chanting and hearing the holy name, then naturally remembrance of the holy name will be buzzing in your mind. It will connect you with Krishna, at least for that period while you're chanting. Now, I say from experience, and I think most people agree with me, that in a 24-hour period, we spend about 6 to 8 hours sleeping, and none of us are thinking about Krishna. In fact, I would say, last night when I was sleeping, I was quite happy. I was hearing about some Krishna's pastime on my smartphone, and after that I fell asleep, and I was in my sleep. Then I was dreaming about the meetings in Mayapur and in the GBC meetings, and discussing all these issues of our society. I was like, oh my God, this is not a very pleasant thing. And then I woke up, and I think, I don't want to remember the meetings, because those meetings are not very pleasant. So I went back to sleep again. Then I couldn't sleep because I'm already awake now, and I'm tossing and turning, and finally, due to exhaustion, I go back to sleep. But the point I would make is that even though I heard about Krishna, I could not think about Krishna. I was thinking about GVC meetings. For God's sake, why, I don't know. Because of course, meetings are coming up in a couple of months' time, and we just concluded our midterm meetings just last month. So these things are still fresh in the mind. And because we discuss this regularly, either on Zoom or on WhatsApp, on Google Form, and discussing and sending messages back and forth. So it's very, very fresh in the mind. But Krishna pastimes are not very fresh in the mind, because those things are nice to hear about, but it's not the things which you are being affected every day. So in our everyday affairs, whatever service we are rendering, that those things will be more relevant to us, and those things will be more fresh in our minds. So for me, just these meetings and discussing everything on the Google Form, on the WhatsApp message, and then sending back and forth messages, so it's so deep rooted and it's fresh, so it keeps coming back. And because that is what kind of part of my service, so I have to be focused on that service. So the point I'm trying to make here is that it's not very easy to remember Krishna. So we chant the holy name of the Lord. As Prahlad Maharaj has recommended, the process of Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So Sravanam we can all do. Question is, we have to make our own choice, what we want to hear. Do you want to hear the Krishna's holy names? Do you want to hear Krishna's pastimes? Or do you want to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam? Or do you want to hear Srimad Bhagavad Gita? Or you want to hear about the mundane sound and things around you? Choice is ours. But it's very clearly saying here that if we hear certain positive things which is related to Krishna and connected with Krishna, then it will elevate you to a higher level, where Prabhupada says in the purport that you can even elevate yourself to Vaikuntha Loka or the spiritual world. On the other hand, if this hearing is not used properly, then you will end up in the planets of the Pitrulokas or the forefathers. This is also material. Or at best, if you have abundance of pious credits for you, you do very nice, good deeds, pious deeds, and be very generous and kind to mankind and other living entities, then you have very pious credits. And these pious credits will then elevate you to Devaloka or the heavenly planets. Still, heavenly planets is not going to free you from what Prabhupada says, the disease of the material condition. In the material world here, in this Bhuloka, the middle planet system, it is neither lower planet system or higher, but we are in the middle. So in the middle, we are privy to experiencing the hellish things and the heavenly things. Nonetheless, you still have to take birth, and with birth comes old age, with old age comes disease condition, and then finally you experience the inevitable death. Even in the heavenly planets, the same process is going on. You take birth, you get old, you get disease, and then you die. In the lower planet system, same thing happens. So basically, even if you elevate yourself to the heavenly planets, all it will do is that you will get better facilities for sense enjoyment. As explained in the scriptures, that whatever level of happiness and pleasure you find in the material world is 10,000 times more in the spiritual, in the heavenly planets. Now I don't know if you can experience this, but at least we can try and understand that whatever pleasure we are getting here, that must, the pleasure in the heavenly planets will be 10,000 times more. But still, that pleasure is not going to make anything better for you, because whether it's in the middle planetary system or lower planetary system or the higher planetary system, where pleasure is manifold more times, but still it is temporary. It will not last forever. It will be short time and it's gone. Now of course, my understanding is that when he's saying 10,000 times more, It's just question of the intensity of the happiness. It's not like your happiness will be longer. Now, for example, here we have 24 hours in a day. In the heavenly planet also you have 24 hours in a day. But the heavenly planet 24 hours are a bit longer. So I would say, compared to us here, maybe the heavenly planet one day is 1 year long. So can you imagine how 1 year long? So you have a half a day, 6 months day, and then 6 months night. So when you are in this world here, you sleep for 6 hours and you wake up. There you sleep for six months and you wake up. So it's not any better. It's just question of relative time. The most important point is that we have this ability of doing Shravanam and Kirtanam. Kirtanam basically means speaking, but what will we speak about is most important. And in the practice of Krishna Bhakti, when we come to spiritual awakening, voluntarily you take the process of Bhakti and take shelter of Krishna consciousness, then in the Krishna consciousness process, we are trained from the very beginning that every day we have to practice to remember Krishna, hear about Krishna, and serve Krishna. So in all different aspects, we are doing everything in connection with Krishna. And when you connect with Krishna, then slowly and gradually you are elevating yourself to the position where you are no more attached to the material world. Because here in this verse is explaining that one path is of material sense gratification and attachment to the material world. On the other hand, Nivritti Marg is of detachment. Now, detachment is not very easy. It's very, very difficult to become detached from this material world. Because we are living this material world, so we have to kind of relate to the material world and live in the material world. You can't say, okay, now I want to be free from material world, I will have nothing to do with material world. And you consciously make an effort and try to free yourself from all material things. It's not going to be possible. You are in the material world. So how are you going to be detached from the material world? And not only that, your body is also material. How are you going to detach yourself from the material body? You cannot. Unless, of course, we hear from the scriptures that there are some yogis, through their perfection of different siddhis, they can actually leave the body temporarily. But then have to come back again. They can't just live outside the body. Because unless until you are in the spiritual world, you can live outside this material body, because then you have a spiritual body. But as long as you are in the material realm, you have to have a material body. And this material body is going to be very, very integrated part of your existence. Because you cannot live without the body. Temporarily you may, but unless you, as I said, you become a very powerful yogi, then you can have this outer body experience for a short time, and maybe the yogi, wanders away somewhere in the universe and then comes back again. But we are not in that position to do that, because the only time you're going to experience the separation from the material body is at the time of death, when the soul moves on. Now, if the soul moves on at the time of death, it gives up one body and it prepares the next body. So it's not like that it is just completely detached from the material world, one body to the next body and then the next body. So it is very important that we understand that even the material body, even though it is material, if we use this material body in the service of the Supreme Lord, then it becomes pure. Prabhupada explains that anything which is in connection with the Supreme becomes transcendental and pure. Yes, for example, every day we experience that we make very nice preparations of food stuff. It's material, nothing spiritual about it. Then we offer it to Krishna. And with loving prayers, we offer Krishna the nice bhoga. And when Krishna is offered his bhoga, Krishna realizes this and transforms his material bhoga to spiritual. And when it's transferred to spiritual, then it is said that it is Krishna Prasada. And Krishna Prasadam is no different from Krishna. The only problem is, we can't see that. You see, you put a nice plate of chapati, rice, dal, sabji, samosa, pakora, chutney, sweet rice, all these beautiful, nice preparations. You offer to Krishna, and then after Krishna has ordered it, then you take the plate away with permission of Krishna, that now that you finish, I will take it away. And then you take it to the transfer room, transfer it, put it in the utensils, bring it out, and then you say, Prasadam time, Sarirar, Vidyaja, Jatanathega, and then you look at it. And the person who cooked that says, this is exactly the same thing what I cooked. I don't see anything different. There is a difference. There is a spiritual transformation from material to spiritual. We cannot see it, but we can experience it. So those who are relishing Krishna Prasadam, because we are now so easily getting access to Krishna Prasadam, we don't see the difference. But the potency of Prasadam is so powerful that the more and more you honor Krishna Prasadam, the more and more your body becomes pure. This was given as example of one of the disciples of Ramanujacharya. They were sitting on the river bank taking prasadam. And one of the disciples, because they were discussing the glories of prasadam, how powerful prasadam is. And one of the disciples asked Ramanujacharya that, you're talking about this prasadam is transcendental, is not different from Krishna. We are relishing it, but we are not experiencing this transcendental nature which you are talking about. Can we explain more deeper? And he said, you'll never understand that. So he picked up a fistful of rice and he threw it in the river. And every morsel of rice was floating in the river. And the fish in the river would come and take the rice. Now the fish is doing his own business. As Prabhupada explains, animal propensity. He's doing eating. So the fish is not concerned. Fish just says, this is food, I just eat. But because of the innocence of the fish and the mercy of Ramanujacharya, took the Mahaprasad and immediately gave up the fish body and shot out of the water, and it was a beautiful spiritual body shooting off towards Vaikuntha. And all the devotees were sitting there saying, wow, this is the power of Mahaprasad. This is Krishna. And then they looked themselves, I am taking prasadam for the last 20 years. And I'm still stuck in this body. That's because most of the times, when we go for prasadam breakfast or lunch or evening prasadam, we are just satisfying our hunger. We are not seeing Krishna. We are not appreciating Krishna. So we cannot, but it does have a very, very remarkable change in one's heart. So gradually purification takes place and you become pure. And that is why we say that a saintly person, when he is departing this world, his body is transcendental. It's not material in the world, because every cell in the body is made of Mahaprasad. And scientifically it is proven fact now that every 7 years the body changes its cells and replaces new cells. But it's not that you're from 1 year to 7 years and all of a sudden and you have a new body. No, it's a continuous process. So you don't experience this change of body, but it is changing. The only time you experience is that you look at the mirror and say, my God, I'm 45 years old, I'm 70 years old. Then you realize, yes, you are old. But otherwise, you don't experience aging. No. Yesterday you were one day younger, today you are one day older. Do you experience anything different? You don't. But after 5-10 years, you experience the change. So anyway, the point is that even scientifically we know that every cell in the body is replaced. And what is that replaced with? The food grains you eat, the vegetables you eat, all the things are taken from that elements and they are replacing your body. Now if you're only eating Krishna Prasadam, then as I said, there's a transformation from material to spiritual, and Krishna Prasadam is spiritual, and therefore every cell in your body becomes Krishna. In no terms that you become God, but you become spiritual. So when you become spiritual, then you actually begin to appreciate and connect with Krishna and relish it. So those who are taking prasadam for many years, chanting the holy names, then they can actually experience this transcendental experience of spiritualness and detachment from material world. So we don't have to physically detach from material body, but we have to spiritualize the body. And when this body is spiritualized, then the soul is quite happily living there because it's not anymore on a material platform, it is on a spiritual platform. So similarly, we see these changes happening from prasadam. So like the body also becomes spiritualized. And because it is no more made of material elements, it is made from material elements which are spiritualized. So anything in connection with Krishna becomes pure and transcendental. Even like the form of the Lord. You see a very beautiful Gonita is standing there. Now before they were installed and the devotees very lovingly started worshipping them, what were they? It was just a piece of wood carved out in the shape with the person with the two hands in the air. But after, when we start worshipping the Lord kindly manifests himself in that form. And he's no more wood. He's actually the Supreme Lord. And as this transformation has taken place, now Prabhupada explains that the deity, after installation, becomes the manifestation of the Lord's features and becomes no different from the Lord. Only thing is, our misfortune is that these eyes cannot see the transcendental nature of the Lord. But when your heart is pure, and you, as I said, through the process of bhakti, you are freed from the material contamination, and everything becomes spiritualized, then you will see the Lord. When your heart is very pure and you connect. So in this connection, we can understand the story of Shakshi Gopal. He is there playing his flute, and pilgrims are coming, paying their respects to Shakshi Gopal and worshipping him and offering prayers, and all these things are happening. So we know the story of the old Brahman and young Brahman. So the old Brahman was so pleased with the young Brahman's service to him. So he said that you are such a nice young boy, very, very cultured person, very, very nice person. I have a beautiful daughter. I would like to give that daughter's hand in marriage to you. Now this young Brahman is very cultured person with very good Brahmanical qualities, but he's not very wealthy. He's just an average person. So the Brahmana, the older Brahmana, was little wealthy. So he said, how can you give me your daughter? No, because you may be pleased to give your daughter to me, but what about your wife and your sons? Will they be happy? So yes, they will listen to what I said. I am their father after all. So this promise was made in front of Shakshi Gopal, and they went away, and the appropriate time came, so the young Brahmana went to the old Brahmana's house and said, since you made a promise in front of the Lord, then I have come to fulfill that pledge and promise, so that your promise will not go in vain, and also you won't be called a liar because you made a promise in front of the Lord. So in order to keep your Brahmanical truthfulness, honesty, please kindly give your daughter's hand in marriage to me. And the two brothers of the young girl said, no way, we're not giving you to, you're a poor guy, how are you going to take care of our sister? She's living in luxury here. The young Brahmin said, your father made a promise in front of the Lord, and therefore, as a Brahmin, he has maintained his promise and honored his promise. And he said, oh, who is this Lord? We don't care for this Lord. If he was a witness to this, he must come here. Now, of course, the young Brahmin said, what to do? So this young Brahmana goes to Vrindavan, and speaks to Gopalji and says, Gopalji, I am a dilemma. You are the witness to this promise of the Brahmana, so you please fulfill this. And Krishna said, I am a stone statue. How can I come? But this Brahmana is smart. He's saying, if you can speak, you can walk. So then the Lord says, okay, this Brahmana is pure, he has complete faith in me. He accepts me as I am. He's not seeing me as a marble statue. So then he goes and walks. So the point is that the Supreme Lord is there on the altar. He's very, very compassionately accepting our service, our worship, and giving us the opportunity to see Him with our eyes and purify our eyes. So through the eyes we purify our whole consciousness. But we don't have that appreciation. So sometimes when our heart is pure like this young Brahmana, Lord Chaitanya says, okay boys, what are you waiting for? Let's have a fight up kirtan. They would come out here and jump up and down with us in transcendental chanting. But only if we are in the same spirit. We hear also from this pastime of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that when they were doing kirtan, everybody is in ecstasy. But after the departure of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, now they have the deity of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. And the devotees are still continuing with the Sankirtan. And they would be chanting joyously. And what would happen? Within the kirtan where they're joyously chanting, there's Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda dancing with them and singing with joy. So that's possible only if you do it in right mood, right consciousness, right understanding. But unfortunately, we are still neophytes. But Krishna is saying not to worry, and great spiritual teachers like Srila Prabhupada saying not to worry. You may be neophyte, you cannot see Krishna dancing on the altar, you cannot see the Lord, and you cannot talk to Him. Well, I say you can talk to Him, but He won't talk back to you. So you can sit here and say, dear Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I'm going through some hard time here. It's very difficult for me to, chant with concentration, and I have many, many material desires. And the Lord says, yes, I'm listening. But He won't say to you, okay, I'm going to give a solution to your problems. But He will make arrangements to answer your prayers. So sometimes mystically, something does happen in our lives, and we experience this. But this is the Lord reciprocating with us. He won't actually manifest Himself like Shakshi Gopal. He started walking with the young Brahmana, went all the way to present-day village called Shakshi Gopal, or Shakshi, village name is Shakshi. So the point is that we are living in the city of these 9 gates. We are hearing now from this chapter here about the good and bad. Good and bad about this material body, about how we can make this body perfect. So if we use this body perfectly in serving the Supreme Lord 24/7, engage in the service of Krishna without any doubt, then our bodies will become completely transcendental and spiritual. And when you become spiritual, then you're not of this material world anymore. You are now living in a transcendental atmosphere. Although you're on the same plane, but you're not affected by this. Just like Krishna is saying to Arjuna, that transcend, Arjuna, these modes of material nature, mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness, and go beyond mode of goodness, transcend. And when you transcend on that pure level of Visuddha Sattva, pure goodness, then you are not going to be affected by the material world. And I give this example, of a duck or even the swan, because swans are more popular here. You go to the lake there, and you see the swans are quite happily swimming in the lake. But are they getting soaking wet? When the swan goes in the water, and then when the swan comes out of the water, it's still dry. You and I take a dip in there, we are all soaking with water, and we need to dry ourselves with a towel. But the swan goes in and then comes out and is still dry. So the point is that the swan is not affected by the water because the feathers are very finely coated by some kind of oil and wax. So we all know from our own experiments that if you take oil and water and mix it, they will not mix. If you shake it up, it may appear that temporarily it is mixed, but very quickly it will separate again. It won't stay mixed. When you take water and mix water, it will mix. And when the water mixes, then you want to separate the two waters, you cannot separate the two. So in other words, the point is that this is a very practical thing which we can understand. The swan cannot be touched by the water, although it is in the water. So similarly, when we transcend these modes of material nature by the practice of bhakti, we will be in the material world, but the material world will not touch us. We will be aloof from it. We may, to the ordinary people, they say, oh, he's the same as me. He eats like me, he sleeps like me, he dresses like me. But his consciousness is not affected by the three modes of material nature. So as long as you're in the material world with the materialistic consciousness and material mind and material body, you will be affected by the effect of three modes. And the three modes are very prominent in this material world: ignorance, passion, and goodness. So it depends on whatever your consciousness is. You know, if consciousness is very, very low, then ignorance will be more prominent. If consciousness is a little better, and through some pious deeds, then you will be more of goodness. But still, this is material. So every opportunity is given to us through the process of Krishna Bhakti that we can become transcended in this material world. And once we transcend, then this material world will have no meaning to us, but we just have to live our life. But then Prabhupada says, if you are fully conscious of spiritual understanding and you are transcended, then it doesn't matter whether you are in the spiritual world or in the material world. Because in the spiritual world, what are you going to do? Serve Krishna. In the material world, because you are transcended the modes of material nature, your consciousness is completely fixed in Krishna, and that is why we become Krishna conscious. Then when you are Krishna conscious, what you are doing? You are serving Krishna. So either you serve Krishna in this world or that world. It doesn't matter, because you are now not affected by the material world. So we have to take this process very seriously and endeavor to become more and more Krishna conscious day by day. Every moment we should be getting a little bit further and further up. Otherwise what happens? We make great effort and we go 2, 3, 4 steps up, then Maya comes and then we go back down. So then we are like a yo-yo, we're going up and down. So some days we are in transcendental ecstasy, the other day we are down in the material modes. And we are down in, oh man, life is terrible, I'm suffering, pain, this, that, and that. And the next day you are joy up, you're up there. But if you're fully conscious and preparing, then you stay up there. As Prabhupada says, in the early days the hippies would say that if you chant Hare Krishna, you'll be high forever. And if you're high forever, then you don't come down. And then of course the whole thing, the concept of coming high forever was that they were taking drugs, and because they take drugs, while they're under the influence of drugs, they're high. Then the effects of drug goes, then they come back down, and they become miserable again. Then they have to take another dose of drug to just go back up. So they can do that, up and down, but it is still not spiritual high. It is material high. And material high, if you take too many drugs, your body will be messed up, and then you will be more disease condition, and it will be more painful. But in spiritual life, more and more you're focused in service of Krishna, chanting, hearing, all this process, then detachment will naturally come, as explained here. And the Nirviti Marg is for gradual detachment. And as you become more and more attached to Krishna, you will become detached from the material world. Because there is, if you want to be fully Krishna conscious, and you practice the process properly, then there is no room for material consciousness, material attachment. You have to give one for the other. Two cannot stay at the same time. But while we are practicing, slowly what happens, we are becoming more and more closer to Krishna, we become more and more transcending the material world, and the attachment to the material world becomes less and less and less. Now, so this process is so beautiful of Krishna consciousness in the material world by the grace of the Supreme Lord, that even though everything is material, it can become spiritual. I gave the earlier example, food is just food, but when you offer to Krishna, it is no more material. So similarly, everything else you offer to Krishna, it becomes spiritual. Anything you offer to Krishna, anything in connection with Krishna, becomes pure. Anything is detached from Krishna, then it is material. So, whatever we have, we just give it to Krishna. Sometimes we get a new set of clothes, then we take the clothes and we offer to the Lord. Say, dear Lord, bless this clothes. So when Krishna, you offer to Krishna, it becomes no more material cloth, it is pure cloth. So when we, for example, say when I took my sannyas, I finished my vows, and I was awarded sannyas by my Guru Maharaj. The clothings which were given to me were first offered to the Lord on the altar, and after the offering of the clothing to the Lord on the altar, then it was taken around to the Vaishnavas, and Vaishnava would touch it and bless it. Just like Aarti, where Aarti is offered, and it comes to everyone, and we take Aarti. And why? Because we are saying this is now no more ordinary flame. This is light of Krishna. We are taking the light of Krishna. So please be always with me, so I am not in darkness. So clothes are offered to Krishna. Then the sannyasi gets his clothes, because sannyasi is basically, he is now taking that vow that I am going to renounce the material world and not be attached to material world anymore. So even the clothings we wear are already offered to Krishna as Mahaprasad, and then we wear that as Mahaprasad, as pure. So everything in the material world can become pure. All we have to do is develop this consciousness. Everything is Krishna's, everything belongs to Krishna. Then we offer it to Krishna. Every time you offer it to Krishna, it becomes pure. So this consciousness, when we develop this, and then this training is there, and it becomes second nature, then everything we have, Krishna, Krishna. And if you are just focusing on Krishna, then you will become Krishna conscious. And the consciousness of Krishna, then you are not going to be affected by the material world. So it's very simple. This training is given to us from the very beginning. Some of us take it very seriously, some of us take it a little easy. But Krishna says, it's okay, I am not in a rush. Take your time. But as soon as we realize that yes, time is short, we don't have a long time or unlimited time, so we have to work harder to focus on Krishna. And more we focus on Krishna, then we become very blissful and happy in this world. Otherwise we will become happy sometimes and distressed sometimes. Because you are, 1 minute you are in spiritual environment, next you are in material environment. So if you're going here, then you will experience both. But when you experience spiritual happiness, you want to be there all the time, but then your senses, and as we are learning from this chapter about the city of 9 gates, is dragging you here. And then you become material consciousness. So when material consciousness, then if you're miserable, you say, oh, I want to get out. So you try to come out. But intelligent person would learn one time that, okay, this material consciousness, material environment is not very pleasant, it's not bringing me happiness, but on the contrary, it's bringing misery and distress and trouble. I want to get out, and you get out. So once we learn this, then we don't want to make the same mistake and go back again. But we find sometimes the allurement of Maya's energy is so strong that we cannot fight. But Krishna gives us the strength to fight that, and once we fight that, then we won't go back again. So I'll give this one very nice example of a young child, 3-year-old child. Now the 3-year-old child can speak a little bit now, he's learned the language of his mother, and he can walk around. And they say that at the age of 3, the inquisitiveness is blossoming faster, and you want to find out the world around you. Now the child doesn't know the ways of life yet, still a child, and young child wants to touch everything, to experience. So there is a nice heater, because in the cold countries we have heating facility where heat the rooms, so heating is there. And the child, out of curiosity and inquisitiveness, figure out, what is this? I want to touch. So the child wants to touch the heater. And what does the mother do? Mother will say, no, don't touch that. Okay. Then mother's attention tries to go. I told you one time. I will not tell you again. Don't touch the heater. Now the child is thinking, must be something nice about the heater. Why my mother is telling not to touch it? So the child is now thinking, I am going to touch that heater, come what may. So the mother's attention is gone somewhere, and child and touches the heat. And as soon as touches the heater, what happens? The skin is very fragile, and he gets burnt, and he starts screaming and crying out of pain. And the mother comes running and says, oh, then she puts some ointment and try to soothe the pain and comfort the child. Now the child knows what I was thinking was something good, it's not very good. So he experienced the pain of burning. Now, weather has changed, summer has come, heating is switched off, and the mother says, go and touch the heater. It's okay. I am not touching it again. The mother says, no, it's switched off now, go. But the child, in his innocence, understands. One time, experience, I don't want to experience that again. Because he learns very fast. So there's a saying in English, once bitten, twice shy. Once you experience something nasty, you don't want to do it again, because you know that it won't make a different experience. It will be the same experience. Only the foolish person does the same thing over and over and over, thinking that they will have a different result every time. But it won't. It will be the same result. So the point I'm saying is that in our Krishna consciousness, we have somehow come out of the blazing heat of this material world. We sing in the morning, samsara dhavala, the blazing fire, and the soothing rays of Krishna's lotus feet is calming us down. So we have come out of this suffering world, we have come to Krishna consciousness. We should then embrace this Krishna consciousness full-heartedly, with intelligence, that yes, this is the only thing which is going to bring me out of suffering world. Come what may, I'm never going to deviate from this, and increase more and more your chanting, your reading, your association with devotees, serving. And if you are in this mood, then you will automatically become transcended, and then you will no more affected by this world, just like a swan in the water. Water will not affect, and the same thing, we become like the swans in this world. Material world will not touch us. It will be completely free. So on that note, I will stop here. Anybody has any questions, comments? Otherwise, you are quite happy with the city of 9 gates to be used in Krishna's service.
Maharaj, why is hearing so important? It's more powerful than our view or feeling smell. Why is hearing so important?
See, Sravanam is after the 5 sense organs, sight, smell, taste, touch. The hearing is the most powerful, because hearing is what gives us to experience this world. Just like say, you go to college, you have to hear. The professor teaching, and from the very beginning of your birth in this world, you're with your mother, and the mother is taking care of you. Now, you do not understand the world around you yet, but the mother is speaking to you. Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Yes, okay, I know you're hungry, and feed you with the milk bottle. Now, you see, you're already hearing this. You don't understand, but because you're hearing all the time, mother is talking to you, then through the hearing, you get to communicate. So communication is the most important aspect in the world. Otherwise, if you cannot communicate, you can't live in this world. Communication is the most important. Even like an animal, you have a pet dog, you buy a little puppy, and you train the puppy. Sit. Now, or you may say in your language, in German.
Sitz.
What do you say in German?
Sitz.
Sit.
Sitz.
And come means aus.
Come.
Aus.
No, what do you say?
Come.
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 Aus. Huh?
Well, when we say to a dog come, we usually say Beifuß.
Beifuß.
It means come to my foot.
Beifuß. Okay. Anyway, so the dog has dog language. It doesn't understand your or my language. If I train the dog in English, come here, sit, the dog will learn. How? By hearing. Now by hearing, the dog can understand the commands given by the master. So similarly, we are also learning through hearing. Hearing is the first step to experience this material world. Sound. So even if someone is blind, they can still function. You see the blind man with a stick, and he go tack, tack, tack. So he's hearing the sound, and he's saying that if there's some obstacle there, then he can feel the obstacle through that, and he can hear his way around. So basically, hearing is the most important aspect. That is why Prahlad Maharaj started Shravanam, then Kirtanam, because if you can hear, then you can speak. Now sometimes we say someone who is unfortunate and is born deaf. So that person has no ability to hear sound. So what do we call that person? Deaf and dumb. Because he cannot speak. Of course he can speak, but because he can't hear the sound, he cannot make sound vibration. So, but if you pinch him, he'll say, ah! Right? He has the ability to scream. So he's not completely dumb, but because he cannot hear the sound, he cannot repeat. Even like language, for example, from hearing, we pick up an accent. So, my experience in England is that United Kingdom is one country, although it's made of 3 countries, Scotland, England and Wales, and of course Northern Ireland. Now, Scottish people, they don't speak Scottish, they speak English. Then in England, we speak English. But the Scottish English has got a very particular accent. Now if you're born and brought up in Scotland, you will speak with a Scottish accent. And I have some Indian friends who are born in Scotland. So when they come down to England, they speak English with a Scottish accent. Now how did they learn the Scottish accent? Hear it. So basically, whatever you hear, you learn. And when you speak something, or any sound vibration comes from your mouth or the tongue, is what you can hear. Otherwise, if you hear something and you speak something different, 2 different sounds, it won't make any sense, because the power of speech comes from hearing. So communication comes through all these things, different factors which we have. So hearing is most important. And that's why the emphasis is given that we hear the holy name, we hear the scriptures, the pastimes of the Lord, everything is through sound. And sound is the most important aspect to connect with Krishna. Even in the material creation, the first thing which was created in the world, in the material creation, was sound. Sound is a very, very important energy. And that is why hearing is most important. So Prahlad Maharaj says Shravanam. And if Shravanam is perfect, then your Kirtanam is perfect. Now if Kirtanam and Shravanam are combining together, then your Sparanam is perfect. But if your hearing is not there, then you can't. So as I said, someone is a deaf person, they cannot relish the kirtan, they cannot hear the pastimes. then they cannot understand the depth of Krishna conscious philosophy. Although now, they do the sign language and learn things, and they're getting to learn, but even through the science, they cannot go to the depth of philosophical understanding or appreciate the holy name. See, suppose you are, you're a deaf person and you learn to chant, I think Krishna is like this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So, if someone is going to say to a deaf person, Hare Krishna, so then he said, he's saying me Hare Krishna. So can you imagine you going, Hare Krishna, Hare, chanting your rounds there? It's going to be quite a bit difficult to chant your rounds like that, isn't it? It's not going to be very, you can't even do your japa mala because you have to keep doing this, Because this I learned, because in England there's one devotee, he comes to every time he says, I also do. Because if I say Hare Krishna, he can't hear me. So I also do. Okay, so he's saying, I'm saying Hare Krishna. But can you imagine you have to chant 16 rounds, It's not going to be easy. And then never mind just chanting now, that's just Hare Krishna. But when you speak the Bhagavatam, it's going to be difficult to understand. Although there are now professional translators, sign language, and you can kind of pick it up, but it's very hard. It's not easy. So, by the grace of the Lord, we have this ability of hearing. And sound vibration is the first thing. Even like in the whole universe, the first sound was Om. The transcendental Om. And through Om, all the other vibrations come and languages come. So Om is mother of all language or sound. So hearing is most important. That will connect us with the Supreme Lord very easily. Otherwise it's very difficult. Alright? Hare Krishna. Right. Thank you very much. Jai Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Books ki jai. Hearing ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Atmanivedana Maharaj ki jai.
Your hand is dangerous. We come to the end now. Oh, it's getting cold here.
Yeah, it's raining now.
Last night it was raining. Because I could hear, in my room.
Yeah, it's raining.
Also there was windy, something knocking,
This is so uncomfortable weather. It's almost below zero, but not really, and then it's moist. If it's snow and cold, it's better.
Yes, dry cold is better, but the moisture is called damp. Dampness is all the joints begin to pain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's really cold.
That's right. I'm okay. Okay too. He's wearing summer shirt. Like in the Bahamas.
Till 3-4 days I go swim in the lake.
Oh.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Okay, maybe you are used to it because you're
good problem.
Well, you see. When you first go in, it's cold, but after that, it's okay. One time I went to Gangotri, and then we went to Gaumukh, which is even further up, where the source of Ganga is. Then I put on my gamsha and I went inside. I'm sitting there like, ugh. And then I'm there, I'm sitting for like 5 minutes. Freezing cold because all around is ice. It's ice water, liquid ice. I first went, it was like millions of needles spinning. I was shocked. because the body gets strong. So it's just mind over matter, you know. But if I said longer, I would probably be a dead person. Okay, Hare Krishna. So Mother Yasoda has gone back to Nandagaon.
Yeah, you know where they stay?
Oh.
The Krishnananda's Prabhu's family.
Oh.
Suriti Rani and...
Oh, they take their house? Okay. You have to go somewhere. But the 1 month meditation is finished now. Wait till next Kartik.
Yes.
Alright, Hare Krishna.
What would you like to have breakfast now or a bit later?
No, it's 10 o'clock. By the time we made it out,
I don't want to decide the breakfast.
okay. There's the tea talk.
It's not like old. Just that.
Okay.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Rama Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Rama